This is By Design, a journey to discovering how heritage, tradition, and culture influence the way people problem solve through the process of genuinely listening and learning from each other's stories. I'm your host, Hebah, from HebahByDesign.com. The stories and opinions expressed on By Design represent the individual experiences of no one else but my guest and I. They are not a generalization of our cultures and do not represent the opinions of others. On this episode, I'll be talking with Aileen about her Chinese American heritage, the traditions she's held on to growing up, and how her culture influenced her minimalist lifestyle. Aileen will also be talking to us about her Artist of Life concept and how we could all achieve the life of our dreams. It takes a great amount of wisdom to realize that the easy path in life is not always the right path for you. Aileen Su embodied such wisdom when she ventured out into the world to explore life instead of just living it. She was on a mission to create her dream life and wanted to share her journey with the world. Throughout her creative journey, Aileen produced and released an album called Honestly, a short film by the name of The Night Market, and just in the last 2 years, she's released over 200 videos on her lifestyle YouTube channel, Lavendaire. Aileen lives by the mantra, life is art, make it your masterpiece. Aileen, welcome to By Design.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was quite an intro.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have you. Everything you represent is something that I'm trying to embody, because I feel like the way you're living your life is so important for people to kind of like, you're like a role model. So
thank you.
I love that about you.
I never set out to be one. I had questions myself, and I think making videos is my way of teaching myself. It's, they say like, if you want to learn something, teach it. So you know what I mean? In the beginning, it was for me, and I was like, you know what, if anyone else needs this, then that's great. So
that's wonderful. I actually learned about you about a year ago when I was pregnant with my youngest son, who's one now. And I was looking for something to calm me down because I was approaching the end of my pregnancy.
Sorry.
It's okay. I was approaching the end of my pregnancy, and I was starting to get really nervous about like giving birth. Your channel definitely helped out, just the calmness of it and like cleaning out, your mental and physical space. That was wonderful. Tell us a little bit about your puppy.
I know, this is Coco. I want to show you.
Hi, Coco. Aw.
Sometimes there's like squirrels, and she likes to here, come here. No, she won't come here.
It's okay.
You can see her.
Yeah, big puppy.
Sometimes she's not a puppy anymore.
I know. Well,
she's like
all of them are.
Maybe like 6 years old now. But yeah, to me, she's still a puppy. Yeah. She's still like a little girl. But yeah. Okay, she's going downstairs now, so hopefully she won't bug us. Okay, where were we?
So tell me, let's start with, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your like Chinese American heritage? Like, were you born in America? Is your family, how did they come to America? Tell us your backstory.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot of stories within that because I'm sure there's so many layers and layers and layers, and most people on the surface don't understand that there are layers. They just take it like, oh, you're Chinese American, they're all the same, or I don't know. But I guess my background, I'm Chinese American technically. In blood, I'm full Chinese, but my dad came from Shanghai, so he's from China. My mom came from Vietnam, so she's Chinese but born in Vietnam, because my grandma was the one, she came from China, ran away from China, immigrated to Vietnam, and then the war happened. And so when the Vietnam War happened, I think Chinese people were one of the first to leave, so they had like a long journey, not straight to America, but they went on like boats to like Malaysia, to refugee camps basically in the areas. And then, my mom has a family of like 11 brothers and sisters, and thankfully they're all here in America now. Like our family's super close on my mom's side now. So, but like during the war, they split up and they, in like small groups of 2 or 3, and then they just went into these camps for a few months. They didn't know if they would end up back together, but long story short, they did.
Yeah, thank God.
There's a lot of mini stories, and I think it's just crazy to think that, I look at my mom, I'm like, you went through that? She was like a teenager during that time, and she came to high school here, and I think it's interesting, and that's why I can always relate to like you know, like the refugees now and
Yeah.
like what's going on in our culture now, you know?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. My parents were well, my dad's side of the family were refugees from Palestine to Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
They lived in a small camp as well, and then they kind of like established themselves in Jordan. And then my grandpa came to America by himself before he brought his family. But my dad stayed behind because he was a teenager at the time. Then he went to Egypt and studied college, and then he immediately found work in Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
So but because my grandpa was starting to get established in New York, my dad made it a point to kind of have all his children in America. So we had the citizenship, but I lived
Mm-hmm.
most of my life in Jordan. So I
Oh, so
completely,
you grew up there.
yeah, I grew up
And
there. Yeah.
how
So
old were you when you came over here?
I got married at 18, 19. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's been 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's been a while.
Yeah, so
But
I was actually born here. I do have some cousins who were born in Vietnam and were taken here during that time. They were like really young, like 1 or 2 years old. Can you imagine being a baby, like being a mom with a 1 year old baby going through that? Like, yeah.
I know.
Anyway, but my parents met here, and so I was born here. Most of my cousins are born here, and now it's like it's such an interesting, like when you're the first generation, like my Chinese is not that great. Like I grew up going to Chinese school because my mom really cared about that. So every Saturday I would go to like, 9 a.m. Chinese school, reading, learning to read and write. And thank God I went. I'm happy I went because I do know like basics, how to read basic words and write basic words, at least write my name.
Yeah.
But in speaking is like I'm not super fluent. And let me tell you also like so my mom speaks Cantonese and my dad speaks Mandarin. There are like hundreds of different dialects in Chinese. They're not all the same language. If you learn one, you won't understand the other.
I can
It's
imagine. I mean, China's huge.
I know, but like the
Yeah.
two main dialects are Mandarin and Cantonese.
Hmm.
So I my dad and mom separated when I was like in elementary school or middle school. So I'm closer to my mom's side. So in Chinese school we studied Mandarin and most people speak Mandarin. That's like the standard language, but I'm closer to my mom's side. So it's weird because my Cantonese is a little bit better than my Mandarin, but my brother, his Mandarin is a little bit better than his Cantonese. And it's because my mom, I don't know why she did this, but she spoke more Cantonese to me. And when she speaks to him, she speaks in Mandarin. And
Wow.
it's just so weird. And it's
Yeah.
like, my brother's Cantonese is horrible. When he tries to like talk to my aunts and uncles, he just doesn't. He just uses English.
So that's awesome. So they're completely different languages, right? So
Yeah, they sound completely different. And some of the words are, you can't translate. It's some of the words in Cantonese, you can't like write it down and translate to the other language. It's just like different. But in general, like the characters are the same. Most of the time, the characters are the same, but the way you say it is different.
that's funny because learning Arabic letters, they're kind of like drawn different than any
Mm-hmm.
letters. Kind of like if you're learning French or Spanish or English, they all have the English letters kind of,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have their accents. Oh, in Arabic, they're drawn different. We write from right to left, and
Oh, yeah.
we have the accents on there too. And we have for each letter, we have multiple ways of drawing that letter depending on where it sits in the word. So if it's in the
That's
beginning,
confusing.
it's so, yeah, so it's
Yeah.
very hard.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. That's
but
crazy.
any language you're going to learn is going to be difficult, but it's
Yeah.
really good that your mom put you in school to teach
Hmm.
you your kind of like your original language, because
Yeah.
I'm struggling with that now, and I have a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old,
Hmm.
and
I
so I'm
was thinking, yeah, when I have kids, I don't think their Chinese is going to be great at all. It's so fast how the language can just like disappear unless you like
trying.
bring them to like intense, school or something.
Yeah, no,
Hmm.
definitely. Because I was lucky because I in Jordan they teach you English because they understand that
Uh-huh.
that's kind of like the world language. But I learned English by visiting family. So I learned how to speak
Mm,
English by visiting, my family in America.
wow.
And I came and lived in America when I was 10 years old. So I was in fifth grade. So
Mm,
definitely it's a great thing that your mom did that. But I'm struggling with that because we live in America, and
yeah.
trying to teach the kids kind of like another language, it's so difficult if they don't go to a school, you know what I mean?
I think you have to start when they're young, though. I mean, you're lucky because they're still young, so you should just only speak like Arabic or you know what I mean?
It's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely. I commend your mother for doing that. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
It's can you talk a little bit about you growing up in America as a Chinese American?
Mhm.
What are some of the struggles that you went through, or maybe when did you realize you were different?
So I was talking to you earlier, and I think most people would assume that like, oh, you felt different because you're the only one. And I realized like I have a very unique, I guess it's a unique background because I grew up in an area that's like mostly Chinese. Oh,
Yeah.
we have someone in the chat. I see Diane
Hi,
Gibbs.
Diane.
Okay.
Yeah, finally.
Oh, okay. So let me tell you about the place that I grew up. I guess, okay, when I was really, really young, like first or second grade, I lived with my cousins in the city called Anaheim, California, where it was mostly Hispanic. And when you're that young, I don't think you realize that you're different because everyone's just friends, right? So my cousins stayed in that city and they grew up. And I think for them, they were the only Chinese person in their class with like a bunch of Hispanic people. But when I was in, I got sometime in elementary school, I moved to another city with my family. And that city was like where all the Chinese immigrants or just Asian immigrants would like settle down. People group together because when they just immigrate to a country, they don't know the language. They want to stay together. So actually the place that I grew up, it was called Roland Heights. If you drive down the main street, all you see is like Chinese restaurants and Chinese supermarkets and Korean food and Japanese food. And that was my normal. So when I grew up, our school was maybe like 80% Asian, not just Chinese, just different Asians. And like literally when I was in honors, so I was in like the honors AP classes, and it's so weird to say we had like one or two white people in our class, maybe none sometimes. There's like some Hispanic people. So if you understand, this mix is not normal of America, but I don't know, that's just the way I grew up. And we didn't see ourselves as like, oh, everyone's Asian. I don't think we even realized that this was not normal. It was just our friends were our friends. And I think I realized that the way I grew up was different was when I went to college. I went to USC, which looks like the movie version of college. I don't know if you've ever seen just any movies, like any movies about sororities and frats. And
typical college.
like Zac Efron, like, okay, Lil Romeo went to my school. Like I saw him walking, like it wasn't, I guess USC is not typical LA. It's a glamorous version of college, right? Because everyone, it's just, there's some sort of glamorous culture in LA. So that was when I realized like, I was different because I would have like group meetings or you'll meet people in your classes and everyone's diverse from everywhere. And then they're like, why are all your friends Asian? I'm like,
oh yeah. Cause
like,
go ahead.
So that was like, it's not like I was doing that on purpose, but I grew up that way. And I don't want you to think I'm racist because I'm only hanging out with Asians, but you know what I mean? So that's the thing.
No, that's definitely kind of when I moved to America, I was similar experience. I surrounded myself with like relatives, so they were all like Arab and not just Arab, but like Palestinians. So but when I went to college, it seemed like most of my friends were just my friends who were in my class. For some reason, I kept away from the Arab Americans from college. I just wanted to kind of have my thing in university. So that was my experience with that. But did it affect you like in a positive or negative way or anything?
What do you mean? When people ask me that? Or
yeah.
It just like threw me off because I never see myself as having any prejudices, but I do realize the way that you grow up, you have some sort of bias in the world. Like it shapes you. And I don't know if I regret it or anything, but I would like to like live a more diverse life. And that's why I love to travel. I love to like see other cultures and things like that. Cause living in this like Asian American community in LA, it's a pretty big community. It's not like it's a small world. So it feels it does feel like a bubble sometimes. So that's why I do like to like meet new people and
Yeah.
stuff. Hmm.
So a lot of people kind of like generalize, when we talk about like Chinese Americans or Vietnamese Americans or Filipino, they generalize and say kind of like Asians is like, can you talk a little bit about like the misconceptions that people have about like Asian Americans?
Like the stereotypes.
Yeah, kind of like how does that affect you as a person? And maybe we can educate people
Hmm.
and they would, no longer do that. You know what I mean? So can you talk a little bit about some of the misconceptions?
It's yeah, it's hard to have people not put those stereotypes on because most people their experience is so limited, right? Like they think all Filipinos are nurses or all Vietnamese people
Yeah.
do nails or Chinese people, I don't know. There's a lot of stereotypes. I don't want to like I don't know what I want to say about them because stereotypes are always going to be there. But I
Yeah.
think the way that you break through it is you actually meet people. And if
Mhm.
you meet someone of a certain background, you'll realize that like they're all different people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No,
Like just,
definitely.
the school that I went to, like I said, it was mostly Asian, but you have like different, like you still have the Asian sporty people, the Asian nerdy people, the Asian this and like there's different personalities in every culture, and
And
that's you realize it's not like one type of person.
I love that you had that unique experience of experiencing the diversity within your culture, which is great.
Hmm. Yeah.
You weren't kind of exposed to the stereotypes maybe until you kind of grew up. I feel like once I left college, the stereotypical the stereotypes kind of became more prominent while like in the real world, and I feel like maybe the generations that are growing up now that are going to be kind of coming out of college and from high school are going to break that, which I feel like
Yeah,
is
I
really good.
think the more time passes, the more you break through these stereotypes because for example, like when we were young, I remember like Asians, people were like, oh, Asians are only good at math and that's all you do, like
Uh-huh.
things like that, right? And then by the time I was in college and like doing internships, like there were a lot of like Asian girls working in the fashion industry. So that became a new stereotype because I was working as a wardrobe stylist assistant at E News, like E,
Mhm.
the TV network. So I was doing that. And then I don't know, there was a stereotype of like your Asian assistant, the girl assistant, or I think it was a lot of like Korean girls who were like
Mhm.
up and coming in the fashion world. And there's like new things popping up all the time.
Yeah, which is really good. So everyone's being able, like they're able to explore different aspects of, America and the culture, which is, excellent.
Hmm.
I want to talk a little bit about you. Maybe, have you visited China before?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your experience going back home and kind of, like, talk a little bit about maybe every time you go visit, how is it different and
Hmm.
how it was different when your mom used to live there?
Okay. Oh, well, my mom never lived in China. She
Oh,
lived
I'm
in
so sorry.
Vietnam, but she
Vietnam.
she
Sorry.
like she says she'll never go back. She didn't like it. She'll never go back. She's
Wow.
like a very clean princessy type of girl, and Vietnam was like very just, it's a third world country. I think it's
Mhm.
still a third world country. But China, I went back because my dad's side of the family lives there. So I had my grandma and grandpa who lived there. And then I guess the first time I went, I was maybe okay. First time I went, I don't remember because I was a baby. I think I went when I was like one. They would take me back in the summers. But
Mhm.
first time that I remember was maybe like fourth or fifth grade when I went back. And so my dad's family lives in Shanghai, but my grandpa, his family actually comes from like a countryside nearby, like maybe like an hour or two away from Shanghai. So I went to visit like my grandpa's sisters in the countryside. And I mean, just that was a unique experience because coming from like really clean America, like everything, we're very privileged here. Like just seeing the countryside, seeing how they live, the houses are really old and there's like fields of rice or whatever they're planting, like that.
Mhm.
And then just the way that the people are is so like it's like you stepped back into the world like 100 years.
Yeah. No,
And
definitely.
then that was a cool experience. But in general, like just even if I'm anywhere like in the city, like shopping or whatever, like people know you're not Chinese, or they know like I'm American or I'm something else.
Mhm.
And it's just the way that you dress, the way that you talk, the way that you look. So yeah, I never felt like I was at home in China. It was always like I was an American being a tourist in China.
Yeah, so how did that kind of like like how did it make you feel? Because I definitely can relate to the idea of not feeling like you belong anywhere. Because like in America,
Mm-hmm.
I'm more like a Palestinian, and when I go to Palestine, I'm the city girl. When I go to
Yeah.
Jordan, I'm the village girl. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
really?
oh yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, so I'm from a small little village in Palestine, so
Oh,
it's like
yeah, yeah.
super kind of exactly what you're talking about, but I
Mm-hmm.
never lived there, but we visit all the time. So
Mm.
it's definitely I've always had kind of like that stamp on me, no matter where I went.
Yeah, I think that's a struggle for a lot of like different types of people. I know it's a struggle for Asian Americans because I'm
Mhm.
into like the Asian American scene in LA and whatever, but I'm sure like for anyone who is like, parents were immigrants and came to a certain
Mhm.
place, because you're stuck in the middle. You're not necessarily accepted by your culture. Like it took so long for Asians to get into TV shows, into movies, like so long. And it's still, we're barely starting. So if you're not in media,
Mhm.
people don't think you exist,
Oh
right?
wow.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of, it's like if people, the only Chinese person that they saw on in media was like Long Duck Dong. I don't know if you know who that is. He's like in 16 Candles. It's like a really old movie with a very thick accent. And like there would be times growing up where I'm somewhere and then I'm talking to someone, they're like, wow, your English is so good. And then I'm like, oh, yeah, I was born here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of those instances where people don't realize there's Asian Americans. I mean, I think now more and more people realize that, but before, when they see that you're not white, or they just assume that you're not from here.
Mhm.
Whereas like, yeah, when we go to Asia, we don't feel like we belong either, because obviously we're not of that culture and we didn't grow
Culture.
up there. Hmm.
So, how did you prepare to go to China? Like, did your parents have to talk to you about certain things, like maybe cultural things that you had to be aware of,
Mm,
or certain uh, um, kind of like, for example, going back to Palestine, I needed to, even if it's a guy cousin, I'm not allowed to talk to him on my own. I have to have kind of like
oh.
family members around me only in that little area. But
Hmm.
once, we come to America, we have gatherings, we go out, everything is normal. But out of respect for, being in Palestine or being in my little village, there are certain things that we had to kind of keep in mind while we were there. Did you
That's
face anything
interesting.
like that?
Uh, I I'm not so sure it was that specific and strict like your experience. I think that's pretty interesting because that's a huge cultural difference. I think for us, it was like just little things like how to bargain at the night market. Like make sure you don't pay full price.
Oh
You
yeah,
always like cut
definitely.
half. That's what they taught you. Like they give you a price, you cut it in half, and that's where you start. And then you have to pretend to walk away, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, Aside from that, I'm really not so sure. I think, yeah, it was,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, definitely. What else? Maybe certain things that you learned while you were there. You said you were young, but were you able to visit when you were a little bit
Oh
older?
yeah, I
Yeah.
my first time was when I was young, but I would go back every maybe 3, 4 years, 2, 3, 4 years. So last time I was back was 2015,
Hmm.
and just to be honest, like China or Shanghai specifically, because that's where I mostly go, it's changed so much in the past 20 years.
Yeah, I can
So when
imagine.
I was a baby, it was like it was a city, but there were not as many tall buildings. And every year they're constantly building tall buildings, and it's developing so fast. China in general is developing so fast that it's scary. Now when I go there, I feel like a little village girl that's like, I live in a second world country, because everything there is so high tech and new, and just the people are just really like, everything's fast. It's a fast lifestyle. And yeah, it's crazy because I live in a suburb of LA, and I feel like I come from a village when I'm there.
Wow.
And
That's interesting.
it's true. The life is changed so dramatically. And like, for example, I have my uncle who he used to live in America. He moved back to Shanghai and then he came back here just to visit for maybe like a few years ago, but he hasn't come back for like maybe 10 years. So he was like, this place looks the same. He's like, nothing's changed here. He's like, the mall's still here. The Denny's is still here. He's like, America is so backwards.
No, when it comes to
It's
that, you're
crazy.
absolutely right. Yeah,
But it
absolutely.
is true. Like the town that I grew up in, it physically does look the same. Maybe a few restaurants switched out, but if you go to Shanghai, like every year there's like boom, boom, boom. It's crazy.
No, I definitely understand because Jordan is the same way. I don't know if it's
Mm,
because they're trying to, like, Jordan was considered a third world country. I don't know if that's changed.
mm-hmm.
But every, I go try to visit every year, every 2 years. And within that, within the last 10 years that I've left, every time I visit, same thing. It's everything has changed. I can't even
Mm-hmm.
drive there anymore, even though,
Yeah.
driving there is a nightmare. But definitely it's changed so much. And you're right. I was in Florida before I came to San Diego, and everything is so slow and chill,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think a lot of countries out there are developing really fast. And if you're living in America, things have slowed down. So
Mhm.
it's not as you don't see it, but it's happening.
Yeah, I wonder why that is. That's a good observation that you had.
I think it's like an
um
economic thing. Their economies are growing.
Maybe. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and anywhere. Like I think everyone's like growing. Like a second world or third world country is moving up to like second world, and I don't
Yeah.
know. Like if
Yeah,
you go
yeah.
to Europe, things are slow, and it's because they developed a long time ago.
Hmm.
And their old buildings are still there. Yeah, that's how I see
Yeah,
it.
that's definitely a place I want to go visit someday.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about maybe the different traditions that you've held on to growing up?
Hmm. I mean, if you're Chinese, there's so many traditions and so many like superstitions that
Uh-huh.
I think it's kind of impossible to remember them all.
I mean, just talk about
But
anything that would be interesting that we wouldn't know about.
to be honest, off the top of my head, and this is specific to just like my mom and my family, because I know not all Chinese people believe in feng shui, but my mom is huge on feng shui. Like she researches and it changes every year. I don't know if you know what that is at all.
Uh-huh.
It's
No, I
okay.
know, I
It's
know it's it's kind of how do you structure your space. I just don't know how it
Yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like there are rules to just the way the energy is flowing in this year, and like east, she has a compass like east, west, whatever. She knows like this year in the east, it's like it's a good area, so sit there more. And this year in the northwest, it's a sick area, so like don't sit there all the time or else you might get sick too much. Like, and
Uh-huh.
then there's things you could put in those corners, like you could put like copper in this corner to help battle that thing, or you could it's, I know it sounds crazy to most
No, it
people,
doesn't. I think it's
but
very interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I can't explain it because I haven't studied it, but my mom studies it. I have an aunt who like went to classes for it, and they, when we were like we just moved into a new home. When we were shopping for a new home, like she had to research everything. Okay, for example, like in a house, if you know how you have like a kitchen island sometimes,
Yeah.
if
Hmm.
you have a sink on the kitchen island facing directly from the stove,
Uh-huh.
it's fire and water like right in front of each other, that means that your house is like prone to like arguments because it's like two
Oh.
different elements. So she would like try to find a house that didn't have that, so you wouldn't argue all the time. And then there's
Yeah.
also another one, like if your house is like facing, imagine like your house is sitting here and there's a
Mhm.
road directly coming to your house.
Uh-huh.
That's bad because it's as if your money's constantly flowing away from you.
Oh, that's so cool. No way.
So
That's
there's
awesome.
all these little things, and I know that most people won't believe in it, but I do want to say that China is like a 5,000-year-old culture,
Yeah.
5,000 or even more, and this is stuff that's been, it's more spiritual, and about like energy and stuff, and it's been passed down over thousands of years, and I do believe in it. I do
Wow.
believe if you study it right, it's kind of like astrology.
Yeah, no, it
I
makes
believe
total
in
sense.
astrology. I
Hmm.
believe in astrology, but not the Yahoo kind of astrology, not the like daily horoscope,
Oh
because
yeah.
that's written by like someone at a job. But like I do believe there's something about like the stars and that.
For that, I actually believe in like the personalities. So when you go kind of like study somebody who's Libra, like I'm a Libra,
Yeah.
so I
Oh, me
definitely
too.
believe. I definitely believe in the
Yeah.
balance
Yes.
and there's just so much, like there's so much personality traits that I've noticed about Libras that we have in common. And then I have a friend of mine who is like only a few days away from my birthday, and she's a Scorpio, and I can totally see the
Oh
difference.
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know so definitely I definitely believe in that. I don't have to be like
Yeah.
from China, but
Mm-hmm.
the daily horoscopes, no, the
Yeah, no.
future, no, not at all.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Did that kind of, let's get into a little bit about how maybe that has influenced maybe your minimalist lifestyle.
Okay. Yeah. It's I don't think that it's directly influenced because my mom does her stuff. And to be honest, my mom's not minimalist. She likes to collect things because I think most people, especially, okay, so she came from Vietnam during the war. And when you left for the war, you had to leave all your things. Like you couldn't bring that much with you. And I don't know. I feel like people who come from that kind of background, they feel like now they can like collect stuff. So
Oh,
if
wow.
she wants, she can like keep things, and I don't know. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Just because before they didn't have the luxury to do that.
Hmm.
But yeah, definitely I try to help her like clear out her stuff. But the minimalism stuff was because I couldn't take it anymore. I had too much stuff. Yeah, because I think our parents always told us like keep everything, use what you can, right? Reuse, like I don't know, just keep everything because everything can still be used. It's about being very practical with your things. And also, for example, something else like finish all your food on your plate. That's
Oh,
another
yeah.
thing like they taught us.
Wow.
Um, but as I'm getting older, because in America your portions are huge and you can't like finish it all the time or you'll get real fat. So
Yes.
I've that's something I had to learn myself, like moderate what I eat. You don't have
Mhm.
to finish everything, even though it's wasteful in the eyes
Yeah.
of like my parents and stuff. But that I don't know. Like for like when I'm decluttering and stuff, my mom, I would declutter and put it in a bag, and then my mom would go into that bag and see what she can keep. This
That's so
happened
cute.
many times. Yeah.
So my mom always asks me to come and help her clean out, everything,
Mm-hmm.
because I, I
Mm-hmm.
I I didn't know anything about the minimalist lifestyle. My personality is the type that I feel heavy when there's too many things, so
Yeah.
I'm always getting rid of anything that I'm not using, mostly to charity, because I
Mm-hmm.
definitely grew up with the same mentality of, everything can be used multiple times. I mean, to the point where my mom would not buy, a mop. She would, reuse my dad's undershirt that's been
Oh,
destroyed.
yes.
She would use
Yeah.
that as a mop. Like I grew up in a,
And that's smart. I get it. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I also grew up in a country that doesn't have water. I mean, people in
Oh.
California complain about water. You
Mm-hmm.
guys have water. I mean, we do.
Wow.
I live in California now. We have
Yeah.
water, continuous flowing water. In Jordan, until today, we get water 1 day a week. And you fill up
Wow.
your tanks. Yeah. You fill up your tanks, and depending on the volume of how much water you
Mm-hmm.
can have. And you have all week to, that's how much
Use
water
that
you can
water.
use. So
Wow.
we are very conservative when it comes to showering,
Mm.
doing dishes and all of that. In
Does everyone
Palestine,
get the same amount of water, or is it like
it
take as much
depends.
as you can?
No, it take as much as you can. So the day
Oh,
that the water is flowing, you fill up your tanks, but that's the day that we kind of like I'll shower and
yeah.
I'll do the like the
Mm-hmm.
washing and the cleaning and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. You try your best to do everything during that day, but then
Mm-hmm.
for example, the rest of the week you really have to be conservative. Of course, you have to
Mm-hmm.
pay for all the water that you use, so there's a meter that's running, but
Mm.
in Palestine, it's even more difficult, to get water. So, Jordan is mostly like a desert country, and
Yeah.
Palestine is just going through they're an occupied country, so there's a lot of conflict. So there's just a lot of infrastructure that's not available to people. So now I come here and my son takes a 30-minute shower. I'm like, Mom, what are you doing?
Yeah. Oh my
Hard
goodness.
to teach those concepts because
It's
like
yeah.
growing up, I like right now, if you're brushing your teeth and you have the water running, but you're brushing your teeth, it pisses me off. Like that's like
That's so interesting. I like that you come from that background because that's something I didn't grow up with too. Because the way that me and my cousins grew up, my aunts and uncles would always tell us like, you guys are so lucky. You're so spoiled. Like you live here. Like, you know what I mean? Because things are different and something like that, like you have to conserve your water. I get it.
Yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
no, I don't feel like it. I was considered spoiled living in
Mm-hmm.
Jordan, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
I had to hear that from people that are in America, like my relatives that are in America when I came from Jordan, because they're like, you didn't work all of your life. All of your cousins have to
Mm-hmm.
start working, you know, at a young age to kind of like help the family and all of that. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel spoiled. Like, you don't know me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
It's like, this is
But
how I grew up.
yeah, so
Yeah.
so those are definitely things that have you know, I've taken with me since I left is I try to conserve at least the water for sure.
Yeah.
And back to like cleaning up and all of that, my mom has definitely a hard time letting go of things. She has that
Mm-hmm.
like a sentimental value attached to everything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the minimalism, it definitely works because it kind of allows your mind to be free, and
Yeah.
it helps you detach from, it gives room for other things to happen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, anytime I feel cluttered or I feel like too much is going on in my life, all I have to do is like, declutter a small area and I'll feel better. It really
Mhm.
works.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about kind of the Lunar New Year was just that
Hmm.
I think it was a week ago.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
talk a little bit about that and how it is here, and
Hmm.
maybe if you have the experience of how it's different, maybe back home. I mean, back in China.
I've never been to China for Lunar New Year, so yeah, I can't exactly speak for that, but I mean, Chinese New Year on the lunar calendar, it's huge.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I said in that video, we clean the house like before the new year. So you want
Hmm.
to like get everything off on the right start. There's a lot of, I know there's a lot of other superstitions, but I like there's a lot of superstitions on the day of Chinese New Year. Like you eat long noodles because like for long life, you eat these like cakes. Basically, Chinese people like they like to use like if the word cake in Chinese sounds similar to the word like fortune, they'll be like, oh, eat more cakes because it's like more fortune. And then long noodles, there's like a saying. Basically, everything that you eat, it's because the word sounds similar to like something else that's positive that you want to bring in that
To
year.
your
So
life.
yeah. So everything you do on another funny thing is on New Year Day, like you're not allowed to, well, at least in our family, you're not allowed to like get mad at other people. Because they say that whatever
That's a
happens
good
on
rule.
whatever happens on New Year Day is like how the rest of your year will be. So you want
Hmm.
to do all the good things. You want to wear new clothes. You want to just all this stuff. It's funny because normally like my mom's really late and to the family gatherings, like they're usually always calling her like, hey, where are you? Blah, blah, blah. My mom's like the late one, but always like on New Year, I'm like, it's so quiet. No one's called. It's because like they don't want to rush you. So
Yeah.
it's just funny like that. Like you be nice to people
I love that. But
and
that's good to have every day, you know?
I know, right? You should be like
Yeah.
that every day.
So what celebrations do you guys have for the Lunar New Year?
Every family is different, but in general, like the night before, like New Year Eve, you have dinner with your family. And then my family is Buddhist, so the night before New Year, we go to the temple, and like it's like a big gathering. Everyone goes there, and then you do like a prayer, just like a quick little like round. There's a monk that sits in the middle at my temple. This is not for everyone. This is just,
Hmm.
but there's a monk that sits there, and then he has like these leaves with water, and he like blesses you. It's like everyone just like takes a turn to like do that,
Yeah.
and you just like pray. There's like incense and stuff, and then that's always been like a tradition for us to do that. And then during Chinese New Year Day, we do stop by like a temple too. But yeah, we stop by a temple to pray, and then oh yeah, you eat vegetarian on Chinese New Year Day.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
there's like firecrackers, and then there's red envelopes. You get money, and then at night you gamble. There's like a game that our family plays.
I
But like I
love
said,
that.
I
Yeah.
I can't say that this is for everyone because like I said,
Yeah.
all Chinese people are there's so many different kinds. I like the
Hmm.
specific game that I play. I know that other Chinese people don't know about that game. It's only
Hmm.
because like we're
It's in
like
your
Cantonese from Vietnam.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
haven't like really researched the origin of the game, but I just know that, for example, my boyfriend, his family is similar as my mom's side. They're Chinese, but from Vietnam. So they play that same game too. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have a friend who's like Taiwanese, like more Mandarin speaking, they don't know about that game. So I'm just
So
saying, everyone's
no,
different.
no, definitely. So the
Yeah.
idea of by design is that it's your personal story. You're
Mm-hmm.
not a representation of everybody. And
Yeah.
I love that there's so many differences, but there's
Mm-hmm.
so many similarities. Like I come from a completely different place in the world, but we
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of things in common, which I love that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the message. The message is let's learn about each other. We will
Yeah.
find similarities and we will find differences, but we can embrace each other, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about how the Artist of Life come about?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I was going through like a tough, very lost few years, end of college. Just, I didn't know what to do with my life. And it was my biggest struggle ever because I think growing up, I always knew what the next step was. I always, you just move up to the next grade in school, or you aim for college, or just you had set goals and you knew how to achieve them. But once you're in college, you have to decide what career to go in. And I really didn't know. Like I was like, I just asked all the professors and all my family members, like, give me an answer. What am I supposed to do? And you have to figure out for yourself, right? So it
Mm-hmm.
was a long journey of me, like, just I was gonna, the path that I was on was I studied business. I had internships in like entertainment and marketing, and I was supposed to go into like one of those companies or something.
Mm-hmm.
But during my internships, I realized that I didn't really like the lifestyle, the corporate working lifestyle, and I didn't feel like I never felt excited about work. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, am I just spoiled? Do I just not want to work? But I was convinced that like I must be interested in something, that there must be something that I'm
Mm-hmm.
good at, that I can do for a career. And then I also love to travel, and I wanted to live a lifestyle where I could make a living without doing a 9 to 5, like
Mm-hmm.
somehow make a living where I could have more time to travel and have more flexible life. And obviously I was like, in my job, I was doing social media, like
Mm-hmm.
on Twitter for like, big accounts. So I'm like, people are making a living doing something online. Like
Yeah.
there are so many new ways to make money online. So I had that in the back of my mind. So like I said, I explored, I did music, I was working part-time, I auditioned for like acting roles, and I was seriously pursuing music for a few years until I realized like, in 40 years, do I still want to be trying this music thing? Like, music is fun and I love it, but I'm kind of an introvert. I like to stay at home. I don't like the idea of touring. Because
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm-hmm.
you're an artist, you have to like travel the country and tour different shows, live out of the bus or the hotel. And that didn't appeal to me. So if you think about it, I was always thinking about what's my dream lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yes, I like music, but do I like that lifestyle? Not really. And so I wanted to craft and find something that would fit that lifestyle. And I always watched YouTube. And
Mm-hmm.
I was always envious of the girls on YouTube. Like I watched like Michelle Phan and Jen M, Close Encounters. Like I watch these girls, I'm like, their life looks so cool. Like they get to travel and be creative. And I don't know, I always envied it, but I never thought that I could do it myself. Because I had
Mm-hmm.
a music YouTube channel that didn't really take off. It was just okay. And I thought, like, I kind of gave up music at some point. But when I was serious about myself, I was like, okay, I still envy these YouTube people. Like, I guess I should give it a try.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. No,
so, mhm,
that's wonderful. I mean, for me, YouTube wasn't kind of like a thing that maybe I would ever consider, because it's kind of like putting yourself out there, and it's not really encouraged in my culture. You know, you
yeah,
have to be. There's a lot of consequences that maybe your family and whatever you say or you do might affect everybody else around you. So that's always something in the back of my head, even with this project. Like, but it's definitely like a space that I feel like is you can craft your life there because you become kind of a master of your own life and journey. So
yeah,
that's great that you kind of had like the wisdom at a young age to realize that, because a lot of people might have went into all the paths that you were considering, maybe music, because I know you've created music before, and that was I've been listening to your music, yeah, on Spotify, and it's beautiful, and definitely I can see a career for you, you know, in that path, or also like you know, in my research, I learned about you kind of becoming the face of the Chinese after hour market.
The night market.
The night market.
After hours sounds so dirty.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh,
that's funny.
This is like
fine. I was the
my
PR.
English. I translate.
Oh no, that's hilarious. Oh yeah. So that was another stint. That was like my part-time job where I was like doing their marketing. It was a new night market, which is a food festival with entertainment, but it was new and it like blew up really fast. And I got to be like the spokesperson and do interviews with like LA Times and TV and stuff. It was fun.
I love that. So, okay, go ahead. So how did your journey take you into crafting your life?
Yeah. So like I said, I was exploring music, and with the night market job, I got experience like managing my own video team. I was interviewing chefs, and I had a lot of fun being in front of the camera, not just singing, but like talking and sharing. But at the same time, I was reading all these personal development books, like how do I find my purpose? How do I create my dream life? And like you said earlier, like maybe most people they don't have the wisdom to like realize that they don't have to work this job. It's because like the job or the book that I was reading my senior year of college was something called like Caught Between a Dream and a Job, kind of like how to leave your corporate job for your dream life. So I was reading that book before I even had a job, because I was kind of thinking ahead. I was like, okay, if I stay on this path, I'm going to work at a job that I hate. So let me read the book for people who hate their job on how to do their dream life. So I guess that's where it started. That's where I started exploring. And as I was doing all this stuff, I realized that you really do have control over how you live your life, not just in your career, but like how you structure your day, like what time you want to wake up. And I mean, this is if you build your life from scratch, what habits you want to do, like how often you want to read books. I always want to be reading and learning. So I try to read like 15 minutes every night, things like that I think most people don't think about. Most people just live day to day. They're just, I don't know, they're not aware. And I think if you just like realize like, hey, I can design every aspect of my life, my day-to-day life, my relationships with people, like if you set a goal, like you can like change things in your life really fast. And it really is about like first the awareness that you can do that. And then there's like a million techniques on how you can change your life, which is the fun part.
I love that. Do you think that maybe your upbringing or your culture had something to play with that?
Yeah, I do. I don't know if I can pinpoint exactly how, but I know there are different ways. For example, I'm blessed in the sense that I grew up with mostly my mom, and because my mom and dad, like I said, they split up, right? My dad is like the strict, very, very strict parent, like a very conservative Chinese parent. But my mom was like really nice, and she's really chill, and she's really like, she's very soft. Like she'll never like yell at you and stuff. So my mom was really easy on me and my brother growing up. For example, like I grew up with other Asians. Other Asians were not allowed to like go to other people's houses during high school. They were not allowed to like do a lot of stuff. But because my parents were away or they were so lenient, I had a lot of freedom to do what I wanted. And I think that was necessary for me to like learn not to like stick to a rigid system. Because I think if you grow up in a certain system, you might be like stuck in thinking like, oh, my parents both tell me, they push me to like work this job or be a doctor, I'm going to do that. I think a lot of my friends are like that. But for me, there was a lot of like openness, Yeah.
No, I think that's excellent for anybody or any parent to hear. Like, for me, in my culture, it's the same thing. Like they encourage you to be a doctor or an engineer, you know? And, you know, I was an architect student for a long period of time, and it didn't suit my lifestyle, like you were saying, and I had to switch to something else. And I feel like, you know, my parents were a little bit disappointed, but now that they see the career that I built for myself, they're very encouraging. And me and my husband are kind of doing what your mom is doing, is like, we will let you do whatever you want as long as it makes you happy, you know? So, and figure out a way to make it successful. So I love that your mom also had the wisdom to let you explore and let you kind of figure out what you want to do with your life.
Yeah, she was, it's so nice that she was supportive. But the times that I did have like conflict was because I still keep in contact with my dad. So anytime I would, you know, during those lost years when I would face him, he's like, what are you doing with your life? What do you want to do? Like, it was the worst.
Yeah.
The worst.
How does he feel now?
I think now he's loosened up a bit because I keep him like updated on my milestones. Like it's like I have 50,000 subscribers, I have 100,000 subscribers, and I think he understands what I'm doing now. I think before the frustration was just because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and when I was confused, I was doing like music and all those little things, right? He was like, why don't you just get a job? Like, if you don't know what you want to do, just get a job and figure it out, but like get a job, you know what I mean? But I was like, no, I don't want to work a job. Like, it sounds so spoiled, but you know what I mean, right?
No,
Like, you know when something is not aligned to your heart. So that was the most difficult thing, because he's very practical and I'm very intuitive and heart-centered. I'm totally not like logical. Sometimes I just want to do things that feel good.
But it works for you, you know, not everybody, you know's personality is the same. And I want everybody to know that it didn't happen overnight. You know, you've been working at this for a while now, almost 3 years now.
Yeah, almost 3 years.
Yeah, and you've been consistent, and you've been, you know, creating value in people's lives. So that's definitely something that took time to build. So you're not going to have your dream life in a day or two.
Yeah.
And then now you've built, from your experience, you've built a product, which is something that I would love for you to talk about, the Lavendaire workbook. And it's definitely been my companion since I bought it. That
makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And I haven't really worked that much on it, but I shared in your Facebook group for just the people that have purchased the Artist of Life workbook, my future me and my current me. And I feel like this book is going to help people, you know, figure out their dream life and how to take the steps to achieve it. And if it wasn't for this product, I feel like maybe by design wouldn't have happened, because it kind of like,
oh my gosh.
I've been wanting to start this project for the last 2 years, and I've been talking about it in multiple, you know, spaces. So I've been talking, there's multiple shows that I've been on that are design based, that I've been talking about this project about for a long time, because I have such a passion for people and culture, and I just needed that spark, you know, like the one of the videos that you produced, and I was already working on this, was start now, it doesn't have to be perfect. And I feel like I was looking for it to be perfect, you know, but now I learned that, you know, you're just learning every day, you're learning, you're making it better, and it doesn't have to be perfect. But as a designer, I have that perfectionist, you know, mindset. So I'm always looking to produce something that is ready and perfect for people. But when you're designing for yourself, especially, it's not perfect. So can you talk a little bit about this product and how it's helped people so far, and how you feel like it's going to help more people in the future?
Yeah, well, the Artist of Life workbook is a guidebook to creating your most intentional year. So it goes by the year, and it's just a bunch of like questions and exercises that you can do to get clear on your goals, what you want, your ideal lifestyle. And I really cover like all the areas of your life, from your career goals, health goals, relationship goals, adventure goals, your money goals, etc. There's so many different areas where you can set goals. And I think most people, they don't think about all those specific areas. They just think like, oh, my career goals or my life goals. They don't go very specific. And I like to, like I said, just bringing awareness to that area. It has so much power, because once you're like, oh, I want my home to feel more clean. Like I never set a goal to like clean my house or make my house feel a certain way. But once you think about it, you're like, oh, I could do this or I could do this. So it's just like a thing to keep you on track with your goals and also spark your inspiration for other goals that you want to set in your life. Like maybe people haven't thought of their ultimate life goals. Like what do they want to do in 50 years, 40 years, 50 years? And that's something like if you want, like, you know what I mean? Like if you set it, you can make it happen. So I think it's so powerful in that way. And I love that it really is a personal guidebook. It's like everyone's path is different. So when I do my videos, I realize I can't help people on a personal level because one message can't apply to everyone, and everyone's path is different. So something like the guidebook is like you're working with yourself. You're the one that's putting in the work and keeping yourself accountable. And I think it's cool because I've been using these exercises in my life and for not just like since Lavendaire, but even before, like maybe since college, I've been doing a lot of these. So they've helped me shape my life. So that's how I know that it works and it can help other people.
And you've been talking about how you read a lot of self-help books. So it's a result of all of that knowledge. And talking about years of experience. So the fact that you were able to compile all of that in just, I don't know, just over 60 pages, and is definitely going to help people discover what their dream life is going to look like, and maybe not achieve it right away, but at least take the steps towards it. So if you can share a little bit where people can find you and how people can, watch your YouTube videos and all that, that would be great, Aileen.
Yeah. Okay. So you can find me on YouTube, Lavendaire. I don't know if I should spell it. It's Lavendaire, but AIRE at the end. And then I have a podcast called The Lavendaire Lifestyle. You can search that on iTunes and you'll find it. And then my website is lavendaire.com. Everything on social media is Lavendaire. It should be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Aileen, for sharing your story with us today. It's been wonderful learning more about you and your heritage, traditions, and culture. To learn more about Aileen, visit lavendaire.com and follow her on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at Lavendaire. That's LAVENDAIRE. Please visit hebahbydesign.com/1 to watch today's episode video recording, show notes, and extras. I want to encourage you to listen positively because when people talk about their culture, it usually involves very intimate aspects of their life. It's an honor to be invited into their safe space, and it becomes your responsibility to protect and uphold the integrity of their stories. I'd love to thank you for joining me today. And remember, your normal is weird to people who don't understand you. But your weird is what makes you special. So embrace your weird and spread to others the love and acceptance you want to gain. Until next time, I'm your host, Hebah, and you've been listening to By Design.